Hello YouTube, I'm still having problem with this kind of batteries. It's kind of hard to find them or to open them up and replace the cells. So I came up with this little design here that basically allows us to convert the R.A.T from battery to cable. You will still need this little dome thingy though, because this is just like for power basically. It won't take the signal of the mouse and sending it to the computer for the position of your mouse. The way to use this is to insert first the battery and then connect the cable. Same thing when you pull it out, disconnect the cable and then pull out the battery. The reason for doing so is because inside here there is a capacitor. So if you plug in the power before and then you plug this in, you risk having a spark between the contacts and you might damage your mouse. Also, plug this in your USB port of your PC. Don't use external power supply and such, since you could risk damage your mouse otherwise. Just to be clear on one thing, you can connect it to the mouse and disconnect it while the battery is plugged in with power. It will work fine, nothing will happen, but it's better if you don't, because again you could damage the mouse. Not that it will happen, you know, because this works fine, but you should not do it. It's like disconnecting the USB from the computer before telling the computer to expel it. You should not do it, but if you do, probably nothing will happen, but something might happen. This is straight out of the 3D printer. It already fits in quite perfectly. And the nice thing is you don't need glue to put it together, because the tolerances on this are so tight that basically you can close it without glue and it won't come apart unless you try it really hard. So these are the two model prints. One has the hole for the USB-C that it's basically straight. The other one has it on the right. And the only thing we need to do to this 3D printed design is remove the support to free the USB-C cable port. Just be careful because the walls of these batteries are quite thin and it's very easy to break the print. Once the support have been removed, we need to prepare the copper stripes that will go on top of the battery, like the original one has. To do so, we will use a little bit of copper sheet, and we need to take a couple of measurements to make sure that we cut this to the right size so that it fits inside these holes. If you use your caliper to measure the width of these little stripes, watch out just don't to touch these two pins or these two pins, because you will short your battery. And we will need 3 of these. Just one thing, if your copper oxidizes, for example, like this one, just use a little bit of sandpaper and scrape the oxide off until it's shiny again. Otherwise you might have a problem soldering it later. If they are a little bit bent or not straight, you can use a pair of pliers to straighten them up and flatten them up. To fit them, start with the lower hole, push it in, and then when you are up here, use a pair of pliers or something and help bend it in shape, like so, and push it in on top. And leave a little bit of material here so that you're able to bend it down so that it's basically stay clipped. And then we'll do the same thing for the other two. Just make sure these three pieces of copper don't touch each other. If they are too close, you can just still adjust it a little bit, maybe make this a little bit thinner, this a little bit thinner, but so far so good. Then the way it works, basically this one will be the two positive terminals, this and this one will be connected together, and this one is the negative, and we will shorten this probably up to here or something, so that we can connect these two and then solder some wires and attach it to this, which fits in here like this, and then just on the lower part, and then you'll have your USB-C plug. Now we need another little piece of copper just to basically connect this one and this one together, so the two positives. And then we basically solder this together. The one in the middle we can cut it off and make it a little bit shorter. The first thing you need to do to this board is cutting off these little pieces here, and this now should loosely fit in here. The next thing we need is a little capacitor. Be mindful on how you connect this, because if you connect it wrong, this one can explode. The shorter leg here is the negative and the long one is the positive. Connect it like this. Not in the holes for the battery, but in the holes that say output plus and minus. Don't let it stick out too much, because we will need to bend this down. We don't want either to touch these two pads in here. So we don't want to touch this one or this one when we bend this down, or any of the chips in here. And also we don't want to touch these with this. So just one small thing, I've used the wrong capacitor. What you want to use is this one, which is a 33 microfarad 16 volt capacitor. We want the long leg on the plus and the short leg on the minus. Also make sure that this leg is not touching anything in here. Then we simply need to finish solder this and solder positive and negative. This is just a little bit of flux. As usual, before gluing everything down, let's make a test to make sure everything is working properly. So for walls here and for walls here. So everything works good. Remember, the negative is the one in the middle, the two on the sides are positive. So to glue everything down, it would be better to use super glue. I don't have any, I'm gonna use hot glue. If you use hot glue, Watch out not to put any hot glue here near the edges, because the other piece has some wall that goes up, and this wall will go in inside the battery a little bit, so you don't want to have any hot glue in the way. To glue down the rest, just try to position the charging module facing the port and plug in the power cable. The other end is, of course, disconnected. And then try to glue it. Try to put the glue on the sides. Don't put it over this little wall here. And don't put it on these black chips, if you can. Once everything has cooled down, you can close this. You don't need any glue to close this. It will stay closed just as it is. Just line it up and push it down, and then remove the cable. Before put it in the mouse, test it again. Leave it, plug it in for like half an hour or so. Make sure nothing gets hot, and then check again the voltage before putting it in the mouse. Remember, the negative is in the middle. Make sure that it is below 5 volt. And since we have a capacitor inside here, when you put this in the mouse, disconnect it first to avoid sparks between the contact. Make sure it's discharged.